Hello and welcome. My name is Max Sell. I'm a project manager with the City of Boston's Parks Department, and I'm overseeing this project to improve Fidelis Way. This video is a representation of the meeting we held on the 2nd of February 2026 that was not initially recorded. If you are comparing this recording to the PDF presentation, I have taken out a few of the housekeeping slides from the beginning for clarity and brevity. I'll begin by introducing the project design team before giving a brief overview of the project. The design team portion of the presentation begins with the review of the survey results and concludes with the introduction of the final concept. Instead of the planned listening and discussion section, we'll be asking questions that you can find in the survey available on the project website and at the end of this presentation. But I'd also just like to add to any of you who are just joining now that we're very happy to have you. It's never too late to get involved with the Parks project, and we really want to hear from all of you about what still needs to be improved here. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Max Sell, the project manager at Boston Parks and Rec, overseeing this project. Our project is being supported by the Office of Neighborhood Services and their neighborhood liaison to Austin Brighton, Jennifer Roberts, and by our outreach coordinator, Michael McMillan. The presentation was originally given by Samantha Morrow, an associate from Brown, Richardson and Rowe, and joining her on the design team is Adrian Emmerich. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Boston Children's Hospital for their donation towards the construction of some aspects of this park. So just looking in at our schedule, this was initially planned as the final event of our community engagement process. However, since holding this meeting originally, we've been invited to attend a coffee hour at the Commonwealth and look forward to attending in the next few weeks. We've also had a few other events in the community room there, including a teen night event in the fall, as well as this last meeting on the 2nd. So we've been trying to bring our material to you. We've also been hearing some feedback throughout several surveys and hearing from some of you at the Unity Day celebration there in the summer. You can see here that the next phase of our park design is kind of the development of construction documents. That's really where we figure out the details of how things fit together and how this park actually gets built. And then the final phase is construction. So once we're done with the construction documents, the project is then put out to bid to construction companies. So that timeline is a little difficult to determine right now since it depends on a few variables and when we have those documents finished. But construction wouldn't be starting anytime before the fall of 2026. So this slide shows the categories of input that go into designing a park. If you've attended any of our other meetings so far, they should be pretty familiar to you. The City of Boston lays out its goals in the Imagine Boston 2030 plan. Some of those include investing in open space, promoting a healthy living environment, and improving the overall quality of life for residents and for visitors. So on behalf of my friends in the planning department, I strongly encourage you to check that out. Safety and regulatory guidelines are followed by law. For parks projects, that's mostly has to do with ADA regulations, playground equipment safety regulations, that sort of thing. And community input is what's kind of behind this video. So again, this recording is just one part of the conversation that's like a lot larger than the presentation. And I just want to add too that like Parks role in all of this, we have kind of a number of tools to help make that vision a reality of the city and the community. We look at things like additional tree canopy to help reduce the heat island effect and improve that air quality. We help make the city more connected by creating more accessible routes through our parks. And recreational equipment and public amenities help to improve our neighbors' quality of life. So next we're going to be looking at some concept alternatives. Since it can be a little hard to picture under the snow, a quick reminder of the existing conditions. So there's a parking lot here on the right-hand side near Jet Court, and that serves as the main entrance point for maintenance vehicles and from our surveys, most of the park visitors. So it's the only accessible entrance to the park as well. The other entrances use a staircase to get into the park, one between two Commonwealth buildings here kind of in the middle of the page, and another along Monastery Way, which connects Pamela Donovan Road to Warren Street. And that's there on the left-hand side of the page. So Both of these paths kind of running across the park, left to right, are generally flat and slope upwards towards the parking lot. But the main features of this park, the sport court and playground, are only accessible from that upper path. And that's because of the hill in between the two paths is so steep. It's too steep and could be unsafe for some people to traverse. So a big part of this project here will be the conversion of the stairs down into the park from Panel O'Donovan up to that upper path, converting that from a set of stairs into an accessible ramp. It will be shown in each one of the concepts and will complete the accessible route from one end of the park to the other. So this first concept, we looked at creating and enhancing kind of places to gather along those paths. One non-accessible path is removed and converted to greenery, that one in the center there. That allows us to give kind of each of these waypoints or plazas a character that is more relative to the function it's serving. So by separating that and creating a lower plaza, we kind of shift that activity's orientation more towards the basketball court. And the upper plaza then can rearrange itself more, or reorient itself more towards the play area and becoming kind of a central gathering space of its own. This concept also explored introducing dawn amenities, but we didn't really receive the community's support to move that forward. So that's not really included elsewhere. As you can see here, these are some of the results from the survey. I think we had between 15 to 20 results on this. Those plazas were really kind of the main attraction here. And like I said, that dog facility wasn't really receiving much interest. And then some of the feedback we heard for the survey was an interest in kind of those bigger plaza spaces and really kind of keeping the basketball court, which many of you pointed out to be kind of something that was working well, just kind of leaving that how it is, right? It didn't need any major shakeups to the program there. So in the second concept, we looked a little more closely at that sport court. The big move here is removing the cobble swale around the court and replacing it with terraced seating. So additional programming here is introduced as an option. And like you can see, we have just kind of imagined a pickleball court line, not saying pickleball, but just to show kind of a spatial representation there. And all of that kind of results in the size and shape of the play area shifting, given that renewed kind of focus of attention on that lower court space. This, of course, received the strongest feedback, right? Like I said, a lot of you are saying that court's working, so we're really interested in looking at ways we can kind of enhance the program that's already there. And that seemed to resonate well with quite a few of you. Again, a lot safer than kind of what that cobblestone setting is right now. And as we kind of develop this a little bit further, it will produce, it gives us the opportunity to create more shade by planting more trees and helping to cool that court a bit in those hot summer months. So, and the third concept was exploring the idea of reintroducing a splash pad to this park. So there had been splash play here, I believe in the 70s. And that came out sometime in the 90s, possibly early 2000s. So the utility infrastructure does still exist under the park. Those pipes are there, but there would be some upgrades required to support modern water equipment. So it is feasible to reintroduce splash play here, but that would command a significant portion of the budget. And that was something that I think we got some good feedback on. Again, that's hard to say. The splash pad was always kind of the main focus here, so not surprised to see it kind of resonate. However, we got some good feedback about, the drawback of using a splash pad as a cooling feature is that it's only really accessible, in those hotter months in the summertime. It does require maintenance, so if it goes down, it's not serving its intended purpose. And a lot of times, mostly children are the ones using those splash pads, so it's not really cooling every kind of park visitor. So we started to kind of look into other ways of introducing more shade and cooling features to this park. So we asked you what kind of your favorite concept of the three was, and the number one overall was concept 2, but narrowly ahead of concept 1. So as you can kind of see, as we move into these next phases will be kind of looking at reconciling a lot of those elements together. So just a few more options or a few more items that came up in the surveys that that the design team has been conducting. Climbing equipment and slides seem to be very important as far as play equipment will go to this park. We kind of asked about typical amenities, might be good for you all to be using while you're out there. A lot of these are picnic tables and benches. I think picnic tables, especially in that kind of plaza area, there's a strong pull that we've heard. We've also been trying to work with Boston Lighting to figure out how to get the all the lights running correctly. So we hear you; those lights are not doing what they need to be. So this is kind of going back to support that some data. Again, we noticed that most of you are coming in from the parking lot by foot. The improvements that we kind of want to see the most here are about the playground and the basketball court. So that brings us to our kind of final concept. So kind of hearing feedback from each, we've tried to like synthesize each of them, synthesize them into one schematic design. So really we're trying to incorporate as many popular elements as we could. And in addition to the ramp, you'll see here, the major moves are the removal of that concrete swale and replacement with the terrace seating around the court area, an expanded play area that takes advantages of the park's natural topography, its slopes and its valleys, right? We all know how hilly that side lawn is, as well as a reorganized plaza area that serves as its own gathering space. So we kind of broke this down, looking at it again through those lenses I mentioned at the top. The first which we have a diagram here showing the access route. So again, we are not able to convert this path on the left-hand side of the park. It is a path. It's not, no, there are stairs there, excuse me. It's just too steep. There's too much of a grade change to make that an accessible path. So we really were after creating the accessible route along that upper pathway while making the main amenity areas accessible as well. As far as kind of trees and shade and canopy went, by removing that kind of middle pathway, we were able to introduce some new planting there, again, to the east of the courts, which means that would allow for shadows in the morning and some more planting on the west to kind of help with those afternoon games as well. So really looking at kind of expanding the canopy around these kind of areas of programming where we know people congregate and need to be kind of cool while doing active things. So we also looked at the idea of gathering and seating, and this is kind of how we ended up resolving those use cases, right? That upper plaza still has its own character while sort of shifting partially towards the play area, and we're really seeing that terrace seating is going to be utilized for the sport court, as well as some additional planting there. So it looks like an addition of a number of picnic tables and benches will be included here. So we're excited to kind of get that developing a little bit further. So I think rather than the normal kind of listening and discussion section that goes on here, I'm just going to ask a series of questions of you that are going to be made available in our survey. Again, I will be putting that at the end of this video, and it will be available on our website here as well. So just some things to get you thinking, again, as we kind of move out of this conceptual phase and start really putting nuts and bolts together. So one question about the play equipment, kind of a general conceptual question is like, would you rather have the play equipment be more tall or more wide? We see a lot of kind of climbing equipment. We can have like a really nice topography to work with, so that kind of sprawl, low-lying things that are engaging with the topography. That could be really nice to see here. Or who doesn't love the tall slide? So again, we just love to hear it. Give us an idea. As far as the embankment play would go, we'd love to know whether or not kids would enjoy more sliding down that embankment or climbing up that embankment. I'm sure we'll end up with a combination of both, but it's still just kind of nice to hear which one is more important to them to be able to address those needs. We're also always curious about kind of what kind of swings are most appropriate here. Everyone knows a swing. And I know this park has some beloved swing sets as well. So we'll be looking at trying to upgrade those as well. We're also still kind of asking you about what seating you'd like best. I think something that kind of came up in the original version of this third meeting was we heard from a few folks about not having sufficient places to spend time outside of the program areas. And a request was made to have more benches and kind of tree canopies spread along those paths. So that's something that wasn't reflected here in the drawings, but was received at the end of that community meeting. So that will likely be incorporated. We're incorporating that feedback into what we'll be producing here in our next step as well. So just a few more questions, just to keep your mind moving. What did you like most about that concept? What did you like least? What play equipment is most interesting? Types of slides like you see on the playground, right? There are different kinds of materials, different tactile experiences. What type of play equipment do you like for 2 to 5-year-olds as well as for 5 to 12-year-olds? And what types of furniture, seating, those kind of benches and amenities would you like to see around here? So there's just one last look at the concept. This again was intended to be left out for extended viewing during the meeting. So that concludes this re-recording of our presentation.